share my screen and we can maybe just go over this draft copy and kind of get any points. One thing I did really like, and one action item from last week, was doing a poll to see how many community members or developers in the community would like to get active. And in the general chat, I believe Filibuster put that up, or Bill Poster put that up. And the result so far is 6 developers and 34 community members, which is a lot more than I thought actually would be willing to be active, I guess, due to the weekly meetings. But I think that's absolutely great. It shows that we definitely have some active people to get this thing off the ground. And with the community members, I think that's good to be able to. I'd love if you could turn up your mic. Yeah, sure. 1 second. Let me go to the settings. Put the volume up. Okay, it's up all the way, but let me see if I can talk more directly into it. Okay. So yeah, so we did a poll over the last week, and there are 6 developers and 34 community members that want to get active in community projects, which I think is really great to get this off the ground and going. And I was saying, definitely seems a little bit more than I had thought. It sounded like bounty is going to be a thing, and I think there could be some discussion of, do we want to do a D-work thing or simply keep it in Discord? And it seems right in the beginning, Discord seems to keep it simplified. But let me share my screen here. Seafair is this will probably be put out today or tomorrow, and then we can all look at it over the next week. And so he's got a draft here. I think he might have showed this last week. I'm not sure, but if we go over this, it's sort of a TAN incentive system, first draft. And the objective to design and roll out a comprehensive token-based incentive and reward system within 4 weeks. So it's kind of project line of about 4 weeks. The goals, the big takeaway goals are attract developers and contribute to TAN immediately, prioritize capabilities for easy application porting to the network, ensure the contributor reward pool, which is 80% of total supply, lasts at least 4 years. I think that's a great foundation to start with, is that, hey, we have this percentage of total supply that's going to be given in rewards, but it really needs to last, can't just be blown out in 6 months. Establish a foundation for governance, reputation, and community engagement. I like the reputation thing. We talked about that. I always kind of envision that, sort of for the community DAO in Shimmer and IOTA, that, once someone completes a project, we give them an NFT badge, based on, did the project actually complete its deliverables? Did the project complete it on time? Did a project complete it? Did the team complete it within budget? And then some sort of community rating on, how was the project delivered? Is it what's the value to the ecosystem? And then, of course, people that complete on budget, on time, and are adding value to the ecosystem, ideally should, get more rewards, from a supplier treasury. So Seafair starts to break it down into a mathematical kind of aspect, which is interesting, with the main focus of 48 months to have that duration. And he's talking about monthly allocations at 2% of the distribution pool and the 80% of supply, I believe. And T is, what is that supply? What should that supply be? And then he's proposing a 70% of each monthly allocation reserved for development tasks, so just for developers to get everything off the ground and running, 30% for non-developer contributions, community marketing. In year 1, 50% of the annual allocation targets, application porting capabilities, SDKs, documentation, examples, apps, all earn tokens vest linearly over 1 year to encourage long-term commitment. I really like that. I would actually set that as a question. I didn't read that when I was quickly scanning this before the meeting, but you know, we are going to be in a position in the beginning where, you know, there's just going to be so much sell pressure. That's all networks. That's all tokens, you know, to try to get it off the ground. And I think, you know, having some sort of commitment like that is really, you know, any developer, any person getting involved in community is committed. They're not just coming in for a quick turnaround. And we see a lot of things, a lot of times, sometimes when, let's say reward programs, I can't remember the name of it, but, you know, Shimmer did the Shimmer Pirate one or whatever, but I think what you get is you get just really bounty hunters and airdrop hunters that just come in to click the tasks, they get the reward, and then they leave, you know. So I like this layout is just much more engaging with the community, with the developers, which I think is great. It's developer heavy, which I think is a good thing, especially in the beginning, because you need development to get off the ground. So he starts to break it down into the design and planning of week one, lay the groundwork for the incentive, system by token allocation, defining bounties, outlining governance and reputation mechanics. I quite like the reputation mechanics aspect. Again, you know, we've always thought about how can we sort of start developing reputation. And one thing I tried to do is with the Shimmer community marketing, where, you know, hey, if someone did a tweet, if someone did a thread, if someone did a video, if someone did a YouTube video, and then each of these have sort of a quantitative amount, and then people could then do posting and marketing for, you know, your token, and then it automatically calculates of a monthly reward distribution. And some really interesting things came up with that, in the sense that some people learned how to game it, because everything is practically gameable. But we were fluid with it and adjusted it. And, you know, people would reach out and say, hey, you know, I mean, I did 40 tweets, but that one person that did a 5-second video gets, you know, 50% as much as me of all my tweets. So we had to tweak it, and it was totally, I mean, you couldn't really foresee all the little things that everyone's going to try, but over weeks being fluid with it and agile with it, we're able to kind of create something where I think everyone felt rewarded. And I think that's a really big thing through these, is that A, we can be a little flexible, and B, we want everyone to feel rewarded, and to, as best we can, limit the system being taken advantage of. But so token allocation, create a sustainable developer-focused token distribution mechanism, confirm the total. So I believe what Seafair's discussing is, you know, there should be a project team that kind of comes, that really comes up with this tokenomics here, that comes up with what is T going to be, what is the total supply going to be, and then kind of from there break it down and get to the monthly dividend. Just initial thoughts. I mean, is that something that, you know, Edward, you think would work? Bill Poster, you think would work? Kind of looking at a 4-year runway and then breaking that down per month. And I think in a situation like this, since it's the fewer people getting involved in the beginning are going to get a larger payout, of course, than year 1, 2, and 3. You know, as the community grows, as the developers grow, that reward system gets, you know, less and less, because there's just more people. So I proposed that, you know, for the Treasury, we were given like 1-year increments, and I kind of came up with a sort of formula based on each quarter, how much percentage to sell. And basically, if the price goes up, you're selling less. If the price goes down, you're selling a little bit more. But basically, rather than trying to time the market, now that was much more market focused, where TAN, I don't think we're going to look at it, and especially in the beginning, as a monetary value. But so I think, there was ideas. It never came. It was sort of, I don't know. There was people in the IF that were like, "Oh, don't sell. It's wait 3 months." But then we realized they were selling their shimmer. So the answer is no. Like, there's never been a, "Hey, we want this to last this many years." Um, but I think, yeah, it definitely is something that it's tough. That was probably one of the most difficult things, is especially the shimmer treasury, which had a lot of, let's say, fiat dollar, US dollar costs, paying in a very volatile token. See, it was really intense. I'm pretty sure I don't have much of a frame of reference to be able to speak knowledgeably on it. I imagine it will be a question of the day-to-day value of TAN that will influence the perceived value of the formula. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's something where, if we are open to this being um, fluid and flexible, um, then I think that's the key. So if, let's say, we find some people somehow gaming it and they're getting, it's just the fairness of it all. And really what we're doing is we're creating a team. Community member or developer, anyone in the community is sort of joining this, let's call it, engagement team. And, you want all your team members to feel that they're being rewarded for their efforts, right? I think in the beginning, that's something that really it will be interesting, of that, 6 developers and 32 community members, what they will be getting in TAN, I think, on a dollar value may not actually reflect at that moment, at that day and time, at that present time, the reward. But again, I think individuals that really do well, and Seafair has done a lot of research into some of these other tokenomic tokens, cryptos, that, in the beginning, they're literally getting pennies, but they hold on to those tokens, and a year, 2 year, they're a millionaire. So it really, I think and maybe I want to say, like, let people know, like, hey, unless it does come out, with decent value, I don't know what the current price is in that, but I think also it should be like, hey, this is for the long-term deal. This isn't for a short-term gain. This is really for a long-term gain. But I mean, 4 years, certainly, I think, I think one would say 2 years, you're going to know if this thing works or not. But you also always want to have a backup. So I think having 2 years as like a backup is a great. I think it offers a lot. So, if there comes a time through, let's say, a bad bear market, and all of a sudden it needs to go from 4 years to 3 years to incentivize to bring something to fruition, it's a good starting point. So he goes into allocate 70% of each monthly tranche to developer tasks, coding, debugging, and 30% pass to documentation and outreach. Define the vesting rules. Reserve 50% of year one's allocation for application porting tasks. I think that's great, being developer heavy. I mean, this network has to get off the ground. And, I always kind of discuss about, I look at it as like a city. And, sure, you can put highways, roads, electrical grid, water system, sewage system, all this infrastructure. But if no one has a business there to hire someone, and that person gets some money to then go build a house, to then go spend at the grocery system, which creates another business, to then go to the restaurant, which creates another business, right? You have to have businesses. And crypto,